The Major Economies Forum is underway in Washington, with delegates hoping to bridge gaps on climate change. Saying Copenhagen didn't do enough for emerging nations, Bolivia hosts talks on global warming and its impact on some of the world's poorest people. And energy ministers from the countries that produce most of the world's natural gas meet to seek ways to boost and stabilize export prices.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for the Energy Report. Well, delegates from 17 major economies producing 80% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions are winding up a two-day meeting in Washington today. The Major Economies Forum is taking another stab at putting UN climate talks back on some kind of track. Those talks ended in Copenhagen in December with no formal conclusions. Instead, most nations accepted what was called the Copenhagen Accord, with promises of only voluntary carbon reductions. A week ago, world delegates met in Bonn to try to restart the formal UN talks. They got nowhere. MEF ministers were hoping that this smaller forum yesterday and today could make some progress. So far, there is no word on whether they did, but later today, U.S. climate envoy Todd Stern is scheduled to make a press statement. Meantime, leaders from emerging nations are gathering in Bolivia today for what is being called the People's World Conference on Climate Change and the Rights of Mother Earth. Conference host Bolivian President Evo Morales came up with this so-called grassroots alternative to last year's UN Climate Change Summit after refusing to sign on to that Copenhagen Accord. He argues the views of developing countries are largely ignored, despite the fact that the world's poorest people are likely to be the most affected by global warming. Organizers say the meeting, which runs until Thursday, brings together indigenous and civil society movements, also scientists and activists and government delegations. Well, no go for GOPEC, but yes for linking international natural gas prices to oil. Major gas exporting nations meeting in Algeria today will not form a cartel like the oil exporters OPEC, a so-called GOPEC that's been rumored for years. But Russian Energy Minister Sergei Shmatko says they will try to index gas prices to oil. Shale discoveries took the U.S. out of the LNG market just as the world recession hit and big new liquefaction facilities came online. That slashed gas prices into half, and they're still headed downward while oil prices keep going up. In the past, the two did tend to go up and down together. Ministers meeting at this 11-nation gas exporting countries forum say they want prices high enough to encourage investment without harming consumers. Constellation Energy has signed an agreement with Navasoda Holdings to purchase two natural gas combined cycle generation facilities in Texas for $365 million. This deal includes 550 megawatt plants near Wharton and Odessa. Constellation says this move gives it a physical presence and the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, where the company's large wholesale and retail supply businesses sell a significant amount of power. Matinee Energy is teaming up with Hyundai and LG to build 240 megawatts of solar power in the Southwest. The companies plan to finance $1 billion worth of contracts, but hasn't named specific locations for new power plants. Last week, LG announced plans to invest $18 billion over the next 10 years to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and expand business in energy-efficient and renewable energy products. Meantime, Iberdrola has announced plans to build 50 wind parks in Romania in what they say will be the world's largest land-based wind energy development. The company says it has acquired rights from the Romanian government to build 1,500 megawatts of capacity through the year 2017. Iberdrola is investing $2.7 billion in the project, which is expected to generate enough electricity to supply about 1 million households. And it may look like kids at an amusement park, but these go-karts are testing serious advances in electric motors. Purdue University held an electric vehicle Grand Prix over the weekend, showcasing cars designed and built by engineering students. They raced 100 laps and were judged on speed and power efficiency. Pit crews were able to monitor the performance of the cars and make adjustments while the cars were racing. The event is partially funded by a $6 million federal grant from DOE given to the school to develop new electric vehicle technology. Here's a look now at some energy goings-on around the Beltway tomorrow. 10 a.m., the Senate ENR committee holds a hearing in Dirksen to receive testimony on carbon capture and sequestration legislation. Clean Skies News will be there. 2 p.m., the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee holds a hearing in Rayburn on nuclear power's federal loan guarantees. 7 p.m., EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson headlines a discussion at George Washington University on next steps for a climate bill. Clean Skies News will be there as well. That is the Energy Report. We'll see you tomorrow with your latest energy news. For any suggestions or comments about our programming on Clean Skies News, you can email us at contact@cleanskies.com or also on Twitter and Facebook too. From all of us here in the Energy News Center, good night.